Hello, I'm Soycat, and welcome back to my second channel geography video. This is an episode series where we talk about geography and the world and stuff. And I know it's been a while since I recorded one of these because I've been living in the United States of America. To be precise, I've been living in this state right here, and the reason that I've been here and not making too many videos is I didn't want to make any US videos that fell into the camp of, hey, I'm going to tell you who to vote for in this election because I've got my opinions and I want to enforce them on all of you. The reason I didn't want to do that is because, one, I think the most important races are your local races, the policies that are affecting you as individuals, not this whole nationwide, popularity contest for the most part. But second of all, I think I wanted to wait till the election was, over. I think polls have stopped in most jurisdictions. I'm not going to influence your vote, but I do want to talk about why it is that, Canadians care more about the American election in some cases than about their own. I've had so many British friends, talk to me about the US election, way more than ever spoke to me about the British election, because a lot of countries around the world follow the United States politics just as much, if not more, than their own. And it's wacky to imagine why. It seems like, America's just so good. American exceptionalism, some people call it. But the truth is, the United States of America is a very interesting country. It's a very powerful country. And I want to talk about why the race is so weird here. Because to a British person, to a lot of people around the world, seeing the two major candidates, and ignoring the other ones, which we just pretend don't exist, but seeing the two major candidates being how they are, makes it seem real wacky. So today, let's explain what makes the US such an interesting and unique country in so many ways. And we're going to start with this map right here, showing only the countries of more than 100 million people. Again, there's a common belief that every country is equal, and although in certain standings that's true, let's be honest. I mean, you can look at a country like Togo and say it's the same power as Ethiopia. You can look at a country like Nepal and say it has the same power as China, but is that really true? Not really. And in the same vein, the United States of America is one of the few countries in the world with more than 100 million people, and it's also the third most populated. So bear in mind, even if we're just talking about pure people, the number of people who are affected by a decision of a single person, it would be the United States, except when it comes to all these other big countries, pay attention to the Russias, the Chinas, the Indias, the Brazils of the world, and look at them on this map, and you can see how the United States is the only country which is both geographically large, has a large population, and then has a high GDP per capita, as in per person. The amount of goods and services produced, sold, etc. per person in a given year. You can see how the United States is not only in the highest category, a category shared by only countries like Norway and Ireland, and Ireland's figures are kind of inflated. Countries like micro countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Macau. Like, it's a very, very tiny list of countries that share them there, and most of those countries have fewer than 10 million people, let alone 300 million. So it's a huge country in terms of the number of people, huge country in terms of the geography of the thing. I mean, you can see it on the map right here, and it's also a huge country in terms of the amount of wealth it can use, which, in the world of globalization, or if you want to call it capitalism and be one of those people, then it's like, yeah, that's having money equals having influence. Therefore, America's influence in the world, it's pretty darn big. Even if you ignore the military aspects, just being that wealthy a country is going to give you an outsized influence, except it wouldn't even be that outsized because they've got the third highest population, like I already said. So with that said, let's now move into this map, where you can see one of the most unique differences in how countries perceive a lot of things. I mean, again, when you look at how a lot of things work health-wise in America, it seems very different. Here is a list of countries that have free and universal healthcare, as you can see in green, and then we can see countries that have free but not universal healthcare in blue, and then we can see red countries which are the not free or universal. You can see how very, very rare it is for a country to be in the same category as the United States of America. I mean, sure, if we look at the Tajikistans of the world, if we look at the Cambodias of the world, Indonesia is an interesting one I wouldn't have expected. You can see how there are some countries in this group, but yeah, for the most part, it's like that. Although I do want to mention this map is a little bit misleading. I mean, if you look at, for instance, the healthcare system in Japan, you can see how 70%, it's universal and the government pays for 70%, but you do pay 30%. So is it really free healthcare? Question mark. You're like, oh, by the way, it's never free. It's always government paid, which means paid for via taxes, free at the point of use. So is it really free at the point of use if you have to pay at the point of use? Not really. Also, I need to look into this too. Why is it that Ghana is this light green color that means universal but not free? Like, what does that even mean? So I looked into it, and this is fascinating to me. And I know we're going down tangents. This video is meant to be about America, but this whole channel is built on tangents. If you're not used to it by now, then you're in the wrong place. So Ghana's healthcare is in fact universal. It's ministered by the Ministry of Health. It's a government-run program. However, if we look at how it was paid for, especially prior to 1992, it used to be that patients had to. Oh, yeah, let's show you it. It used to use the cash and carry system. Under this system, the health need of an individual was only attended to after the payment for the service was made. That's how people think it works in America. It's not actually, for the record. You can be treated. I've had a little bit of healthcare while I've been here, and it was free, even though I don't have insurance, and I'm not even American, by the way. But that's a side note for another day. But healthcare is a very interesting subject here. But there are countries that have universal but not free. There are countries that have free but not universal. It's a fascinating little side tangent for another day. But healthcare is seen as another commodity in America, which is something that makes them very unique in some ways. A lot of people don't want to see it that way, but the alternatives are very interesting. The quality of the healthcare, very interesting. And the truth is, if you look at this map, you might think, like, what is it about America that makes them so unique? And one of the things you can notice about most of the countries in green is the ethnic homogeneity. If we look at if we ignore healthcare systems in Ghana and we instead focus on ethnic homogeneity, where blue is the most homogeneous and I guess red is the most fractionalized, you can see how, interesting enough, all the blue is very, very closely correlated with countries that have universal healthcare. There's a weird thing, a lot of very, left-wing, let's have the government pay for it, or let's all pay for it and then all take out for it. That works very well in countries that have this, high level of homogeneity, because for whatever reason, you see people as being you or whatever. But in America, that's a problem because there's not really much of a thing as a United Statesian, right? The country is young. It's only since 1776 or whatever. So it's oh yeah. But the thing that interested me is they're exactly in the middle of the spectrum. I thought they would be much more fractionalized. And that's because, by the way, this is, if you want to dive into this is from the Wikipedia list of countries ranked by ethnic and cultural diversity. It comes from how similar languages are. So the reason they're in the middle is because English and Spanish are actually pretty similar languages, and also there isn't that much fractionalization in comparison to Canada, apparently, which obviously has some more. But anyway, it's fascinating to look into this map. But if we dive into another map, because this whole video is about maps, we can see how if you look at within the United States, then you start to understand, oh yeah, even if on a countrywide level, there's this whole thing. On a state-by-state level, there are huge differences in the population. And to show this, here are the counties of America, so the subdivisions of states, shown according to which races have a population greater than the national average in that county. So counties in which more than one race have a population greater than the national average are shown as multi-ethnic. So you can see how, even though there are, white people are the majority in America by a very small amount, it's about to change in the nearest future, but you can see how really it's the majority in the kind of northeast corner. You can see how very, very heavily skewed it is. Interestingly enough, if you look at the swing states of America, the Iowas of the world, if you look at the Ohios of the world, if you look at the the North Carolinas of the world, you can start to see oh yeah, there's the interesting correlation that lines up there. But also if you look at the other, you can start to see that oh yeah, America changes disparately in I went to Atlanta, Georgia recently, and I've been to Hawaii recently. Let me tell you, and I'm living in Las Vegas, the difference between those three places alone, let alone the differences between what I've seen from the New Yorks and the Chicagos, the differences in what makes up an American, and what people see as that, changes wildly from place to place. And given that, for whatever reason, people have different voting patterns based on these things, the reason different candidates have to appeal to different groups, Nevada is a swing state for the most part, or it's starting to not really seem like much anymore. You have to appeal to not only Native Americans in certain areas, but to Hispanics in certain other ones. You have to appeal to the weird hodgepodge that is a mix that is not so common. If you're trying to appeal to Floridians, there is a huge white non-Hispanic population, a huge African-American population, but also there's a huge Hispanic from Cuba and other countries. Basically, and then Texas has started to become a swing state. Look how blue Texas is, as in Hispanic blue, not as in political party blue. Don't do that to me, internet. Let's not have a political discussion. Let's have an actual facts discussion behind that one that isn't just popularity. Anyway, with that said, so interesting, right? I think it's interesting. But if we look at the states individually and we go oh yeah, America is an interesting country because it's very young. People say that all the time, and it is totally true that America is a young country. It's 1776, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know American dates. I know it's taught you in school, but you can see how, like, oh yeah, America was founded in 1776, but most of their territory didn't exist back then. If you look at the states and their kind of, here's a fun graph of it by, like admission to the Union, you can see how, like, most of America started to get around 150 years ago, and there are parts of America that only joined in 1959, Hawaii and Alaska notably. But even if we just look at the mainland, you can see how, like, oh yeah, 120 years ago, the United States of America did not have all of the states it did now. The fact that, like, people say it's a young country, but I'm right now in a state which is only, I think actually my house is older than the state that I'm living in right now. My house in the UK, I should say. I'm living in an apartment complex right here that's, like, pretty old for Las Vegas standards, and I think it's like 23 years old or something. Like, I'm living in a house I'm living in a condo that barely got the ability to drink, whereas my house in the UK is a dead turtle or something. Like, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that America is a super young country, and because it's a young country, people have joined that country recently, partly leading to this ethnic diversity, which leads to very different decisions to, and no doubt if you live in, like me, in one of these, places that is super, super blue, even though I live in London, which is the more diverse part of it, like, you can, like, the difference between places that are very, very ethnically homogenous and places that aren't, you can see it very distinctly. I kind of like, they have different feels. A feel that I like personally, but not necessarily a feel that gives you the same voting results. And that's why, to some degree, you see different voting patterns. But let's not just talk about race. Let's talk about the fact that America, I mentioned America was big. Here is the actual size of America. This is what America should be shown as a map. This includes their territorial waters, which, because of Alaska and Hawaii, are huge, by the way. But also, America has an empire. We like not to think about it, because America gets to claim the whole, like, oh yeah, we don't like colonialism thing. Like, oh, I hate Europe and their colonies. Thank God America hasn't got an empire. But in reality, America has a full-blown, like, people question why America can't be isolationist. And on some level, like, they can isolate probably more than they are right now. They don't need to be the world police, I definitely agree. But if you look at, like, oh yeah, they have interests not just in North America, not just, in Oceania with their Pacific Islands, not just in Asia with Guam and, I think there's just some atolls around there, but they own the territories. But because of that, they have actual direct interests around the world. One of the closest country, like, it seems like North Korea and, like, it always seems like, oh yeah, North Korea is, like, a really far away threat. It's not a problem for America. No, actually, the United States is one of the 10 countries closest to North Korea. It's fun because whenever it comes up in the UK media, they always remind us that the range of a missile flown from North Korea physically can hit the UK. That makes me feel safe all the time. But if you're in the United States, not only can part of the mainland be hit, but also many of these other places that are actually America, and that's why it's an American diplomatic goal to hopefully have peace on the Korean Peninsula. That and a trillion other things that we won't dive into today. But before we leave, let's talk about two more super interesting graphs that really, again, within the multi-ethnicity difference, within the age difference, within the fact that the self-selecting factor of most people who move to America is people willing to leave their country and their friends and family behind in exchange for a better life, air quotes. But if we ignore those factors, it's crazy the religiosity within America. So here is the percentage of the population absolutely certain that God exists. Absolutely certain. And you can see how, South of America, strong religiosity. Between 70% is the minimum in the so-called Bible Belt of America. That's only matched by Georgia in Europe, which, fun fact, Georgia and Georgia are both in the very religious category. We finally found something that links the two together. Also, as a fun fact, even though, again, Georgia is a sovereign nation versus Georgia as a state, more people live in Georgia the state than Georgia the nation. But now we're definitely going on tangents. But the lowest percent you find in America is in 4 states, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, if I'm not mistaken. Really 3 states, because Maine is a part of Massachusetts. Come at me with my controversial opinions. Anyway, so 3/4 states are on the lowest level in America, which is one of the highest you will find in Europe. There is a very distinct difference between belief in God and not, and belief in God and religious values have a very distinct, because one of the ultimate job, like the reason you have a different relationship with your government is because government, if you think about it, is ultimately a step up, like your family is the thing that comes first. Family is a form of government if you really start to think about it. Like there's income redistribution, there's like social programs to help you out if you fall in hard times, and religion also provides another layer of that. Like there's your family and there's your religion, and the religion can help you out in hard times. Like, oh yeah, You have some hard financial problems, go to the church. They'll feed you, whatever else. Probably that sounds like a thing. I'm not a big religious person. I don't know if you can tell that, but you can see how that's definitely going to impact your views in government. The fact that even the most, the fact that there's such a high religiosity, going to change some things. And the final thing here, the reason overseas, Trump's very isolationist policies. Let's be honest. People like, as far as foreign policies goes, it's mostly like America first, which is a logical thing to be elected under, you could say in some circumstances. But the reason that it's the reason it works extra hard for the United States is because it's not as a discuss, it's like the idea of being France first, the idea of being Sweden first or Norway first is not as popular of an idea there, because lots of people do think that cross-country cooperation where both countries could benefit is better than just your country benefiting, and that's mostly where you have friends, family, and like regular visits to the other sides of that. And when you look at the American passport holders by state, you can see how it's incredibly low. For a country that is so wealthy, the truth is America is so large, most people do their traveling internally. They see other parts of this United States. So to them, from someone from, I think that's Mississippi right there, but Alabama's pretty low down, with only about 20% of people there having passports. But, when people are from these states, where they will travel to, their foreign lands might be the foreign lands of California, or, Lord, can I tell you, Nevada. I'm in one of, the big tourist hotspots, right? That's how you know Las Vegas, probably. But, people go to other states for their tourism, and they are the foreign lands that they think crazy of, you hear about California? I hear that you can't even get plastic straws over there. I've heard from so many non-Californians that plastic straws are banned across California. It's not true, but it just sounds correct, and people spread it I can't imagine going all the way to California. What a crazy far-off land. Or you hear about the craziness going on in Alaska. And it's the rumor about universal basic income in Alaska, stuff like this, right? Rumors about other states get around like they are foreign countries, because most people don't go to foreign countries, they go to other states. And there's this the thing that most people get for other countries, Americans get for other states. I think that will slowly change over time. A lot of people feel like they're doomed when they see everyone knows about Americans, but Americans don't know about us. But the truth is Americans are slowly but surely going up in passport. It's crazy to me that in 1990, 3% of Americans had passports. By 1995, the year I was born, fun fact, it was about 10%. We're now at 42%, partly because it's required for travel, but even before then you can see it was growing massively. Americans are starting to travel overseas more and more and more, and the hope is that that starts to translate more and more into into some recognition of the world. Because the truth is, whether America wants to or not, even by just ignoring the world for 4 years, America does have a huge impact on what happens in the rest of the world. And although I want to be the guy who's I don't care about America, the truth is, one, I live here, so I'd have some care on that level. But also, the truth is that the United States, what happens in the United States does affect the world. And people like to be it's all about the trends set. It's about the things I care about in my country. It's no, America sets foreign policy goals, which mean the world can be a safer place, the world can be a wealthier place. There are a lot of goals that the United States can achieve across the rest of the world. It's probably fine about your insert, rights here or whatever. Those are governed by your country. And in reality, even more than that, they're governed by your local state. If there's one thing we should, again, this is coming out as the election results are coming in. I don't know what's happening right now. But there's one thing that should be clear. It doesn't matter who your president is in the United States. If you're an American watching this, it doesn't matter who your president is. If you live in, say, I live in Nevada, so at Las Vegas, Nevada. So the mayor of Las Vegas, actually, I don't live in Las Vegas itself, but let's keep that simple. So I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. The mayor of Las Vegas has the power right now, and has used the power for a little bit to shut a few things down, and to the controls on your freedom, whether businesses are open. For instance, in California, statewide, that actually I think restaurants are at 25% capacity. That is a real control that was done on a state-by-state basis. The local taxes that you pay are the majority of what's happening. The local services that you get are almost all at the local level, if not the state level, then by the city level, and if not the city level, the county level, then by the city level. There are lots of layers of American government, and it's really important that you know about all of those, know about the policies, etc., etc. I've said this before, but I think people knowing about what exactly is going to happen and voting on the policies will make a smarter America than having a popularity contest. And honestly, if there's one thing we can take from the legacy of, the first Orange president, is that we should try to have less of reality show politics and more, here's the policies we want. Let's throw our support behind those, and then rather than all of this other stuff. Because the truth is, no one really feels represented by two people who both have a set of policies, neither of which you really fully trust are gonna be fully implemented, because the president's job isn't even to implement policies, because that's fundamentally not what they do. That is the job of the Congress, and okay, it's a whole rant that we're going to dive into. So instead, I'll just say America's elections, they're important, but not the ones you think so. As the foreign policy goals come not just from the one president. There's a significant number of other really important elections, namely the House and the Senate. And those are the ones, they're actually the ones I'm curious about watching tonight. As you watch this video, I'll probably be watching those, or at least keeping an eye on the updates, because I am kind of curious to see what direction America takes over the next 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 years. Who knows for sure? All I know is that I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I didn't release anything in October. I didn't even realize I didn't release a video in October until YouTube's like, hey, did you know? Fun fact, by the way, do you want to see them? I earned $390 last month. But it's I didn't realize till I looked at this graph and I saw that on average I release about 5 to 9 videos a month. So in March I released 9 videos. Wow, I was on a roll. One on the 12th and the 13th and the 14th and the 19th of March. Oh, they're COVID videos, they don't count. But you can see the vast difference, in videos. I just didn't upload it all in October, as it turns out. So I'd like to say, sorry about that. I've been in America. I've been enjoying things a lot over here. And again, there's a lot of videos I want to talk about with America, but I want to wait until election stuff is done, because I don't want it to be a whole, here's my ploy to influence your vote thing. I just want it to be hey, do you want to learn more about stuff? Do you want to all get smarter together? I think that's a thing we should all start to do together. And if you agree, then smash that like button. I'm just kidding. I hope you'll enjoy the video. But as always, second channel, don't care. Goodbye. I'm using a laptop for this, so I'm sorry about the green screen mess. There's going to be lots of comments being Twigcat, your green screen's broken. The fact that I haven't got it this good, that's something we need to say is important. Also, I genuinely am considering living in Nevada. I love Nevada. It's a great state. And by Nevada, I mean I live in this one city that is connected not to the rest of Nevada at all. But I love that. I love just being in one city. It's in the middle of nowhere. Do you know, outside of this little area, do you know what the closest reasonable place is? It's hours away. I'm isolated. I'm in the middle of nowhere. What's not to love? You're not to love, that's for sure. Anyway, yeah, I'll give you an update as to what life stuff's going on. I am leaving America for visa reasons in the next couple weeks. So I'll be back in the UK, make some geography videos, make some live streams, make some Minecraft videos. You know how it is. You know how my life be. But thank you for this little life update opportunity, because I'll see you all next time. Second channel, don't care.